Hi and welcome to TOTECS, the non-stop e-commerce platform providing integrated websites that work for you. Today we'll look at the changes made to the 13.1 and 13.2 releases made into the TOTECS platform, offering 2 new features, 14 improvements, and 15 bug fixes. The 13.2 releases added a new security feature to the TOTECS platform called two-factor authentication. When this feature is turned on and users log into a website hosted on the platform, once they've successfully provided their login ID and password credentials, an authentication code will be sent to them by SMS to the registered mobile phone number, from where the user must key in this received code into the login form to complete the login process. This feature provides additional security when users log in and reduces the ability for users to pass their login credentials around to other people, or limits hackers from being able to log in with stolen user credentials when others don't have control of the mobile phone number tied to the user. The 13.2 release added a new connected data import to the TOTECS platform to allow currency exchange rates to be continually updated from third-party services via the connected software. For websites that show product pricing in different currencies, this data import allows automation of updating those currency exchange rates by using the connector to obtain the rates from any third parties on a regular basis, such as foreign currency exchange websites or banks. The 13.1 release added a new web page URL routing rule that allows categories placed into the web page URL to a nominated web page when those categories belong directly or indirectly to a parent category. This can heavily reduce the amount of URL routing rules that need to be set up in a content-managed website for category trees, when top-tier category web pages are used to display content for all child categories that belong underneath them. In the 13.2 release, new settings were added to control how pricing and quantities are rounded when displayed in account inquiry record data, such as for invoices, credits, payments, back orders, quotes, and sales orders retrieved in real time from connected business systems. In the releases, new settings have also been added to control the user's default currency, as well as price tax format and two-factor authentication, when users are created through the user registration form content managed web page areas within the administration center or through the customer accounts connected data imports. Additionally, within the e-marketing feature, a new setting has been added to allow email notifications to be raised to administrator users when a user unsubscribes from e-media emails, allowing administrator users to know exactly when certain users wish to no longer receive marketing material that has been sent to them. As well as a new user search rule has been added to the administration center to find users who have not created an order in the last number of days, months, or years. This rule can help administrators to know if certain users haven't been ordering lately, as well as the search rule can be then used with the e-marketing or product deal features to communicate or offer deal to these users to incentivize them to start purchasing more products. This can lead to increased sales and profits for a business. Plus, there are a few other changes applied in this release. To keep up with the latest TOTECS features, subscribe to the TOTECS YouTube video channel, as well as you can see all the 13.1 and 13.2 release notes by going to the forums at the TOTECS.com website. Hover on the help menu button, click on the forums link, then click on the releases forum. From there, you'll be able to see all the release notes in full detail across these releases. Let's get started by looking at the two-factor authentication that we've added into the platform.
Improvements have been made to the TOTECS platform to help increase user account security. Security has been increased by adding the ability to use two-factor authentication with the login system. A user that has two-factor authentication enabled will have to enter a password as well as an authentication code when logging in. The authentication code is sent to the user via SMS once the password has been successfully entered. This code can only be used once, which means that the user must have their verified mobile phone with them when logging in. This makes accounts more secure and prevents account sharing. These changes benefit businesses who are looking to give their users greater account security, or businesses who are trying to protect their data by preventing account sharing. It is highly recommended that two-factor authentication is used on your website. Users can opt into this feature, which means that your existing users won't be affected by the change, but those who wish to increase their account security will be able to do so. You can also force users to use two-factor authentication if required. To enable two-factor authentication on your website, an account must be opened with the SMS broadcast service. This is the service used to send out authentication codes via SMS. To sign up, go to smsbroadcast.com.au and click on the Join button. Now you need to fill out the registration form. Be sure to take note of your username and password, as these will be required later. Once you have finished the registration form and verified your account, you will be able to log into the members home. This is where you can get access to reporting as well as billing and account details. Here you will be able to see your current credit balance as well as purchase credits if you have not set up automatic billing. Next, you need to log into your TOTECS Administration Center. Go to the Users menu and under Settings, click on Two-Factor Authentication. This page is where you can access all the settings for two-factor authentication. Enter your SMS broadcast username and password here. Here you can set your sender name number, which will appear when a user receives an authentication code. It is recommended to set this as your business name. Here you can set the message that is shown to the user when they receive an authentication code. The code hook must be placed in this message as it will be replaced with the actual code when the message is sent. The code validity time represents how many minutes an authentication code is valid for. Here you can set various error messages for if the user's mobile is invalid, if the user has made too many requests, if the API request failed, if the authentication code has expired, or if the authentication code did not match. Once the two-factor authentication settings have been configured, the login form will need to be modified. Within the Websites menu, click on the website's link. Find your website and open the Web Area Formats library. Then go within the User Login Logout formats, go into the User Login format, followed by the User Login Form format. Here you will be able to access and modify the login form used on your website. Let's take a look at a format I've prepared earlier. 3 new hooks have been added to this format. Two-factor auth code field, which displays the input for entering the two-factor authentication code. Two-factor auth resend onClick. This is the JavaScript function that requests another authentication code. Two-factor auth stage. This is used to hide or show two-factor authentication content. It will return Y when the user is at the two-factor authentication stage of the login, otherwise it will return N. This can be used within classes using the display and hide mechanisms in conjunction with display and hide CSS styling, so that only users that require two-factor authentication will see the inputs and related buttons. As you can see, the login form appears to be unchanged. Now I will log in with a user with two-factor authentication enabled. Now that I am in the two-factor authentication stage, the password field has been hidden, the authentication code field and the additional buttons are now showing. Now I can enter the authentication code that I received via SMS, and it logs in as usual. If I had have entered the incorrect code, I would have received this error message. This error message is if an authentication code has already been sent within the last minute. This message is for if my mobile number was invalid. And this message is for when the authentication code has expired. Now I'm going to show you how to enable two-factor authentication for a single user. Within the Administration Center, go to the Users menu and click on Search Users. Search for a user by login ID. Click on the login ID of the user to get to the user details, and then scroll down and you will find the new setting, two-factor authentication. If this is checked and the user has a valid mobile number, two-factor authentication will be enabled for this user. Make sure to update once you've made changes. You can enable two-factor authentication for multiple users at once using the data imports, either with a CSV import or through the connector. Now you are fully equipped to give your users greater account security using two-factor authentication.
Within the TOTECS 13.2 release, we've added a new feature into the TOTECS platform to import currency exchange rate data through the connector application. So if you're not aware, the TOTECS platform has the ability to show pricing in different currencies, allowing users from overseas countries to see product pricing in a currency they're familiar with. This is called the multi-currency feature. Now, in order for this to work, within the Administration Center, under the Stores menu, there's a section here called Countries and Currency. And under the Currencies section, we can choose which currencies we want to display pricing in. So in our example here, we have the ability for our website to display product pricing in Argentine pesos, Australian dollars, euros, Nepalese rupees, and New Zealand dollars. And we have the ability, if we select the All option, to choose which currencies we want to activate within our TOTECS project. So in our example here, we may also want to enable the United States dollars if our website is an international website and some of our customers are from the United States. So we would activate that currency and we can see the currencies there. For the multi-currency feature to work, we have to set which currency is our base or our default currency that all of our pricing for our products coming out of any of our business system is set up as. So in here, we've set that our base currency is in Australian dollars. And that means that all currencies that have been activated here, we need to get the exchange rates comparing the Australian dollar currency against all these other currencies. So that way, when the users look on the website, they see the approximate value of that product in the associated currency. Now, previously, you could modify these rates yourself. So previously, an administrator would have to go through these rates and update these manually based on whichever place they decided to get those rates from. So if they were updated in New Zealand dollars, they would have to update the rates there. So what this new ability does within the data imports page under the connector imports, this new import called currency exchange rates allows us to get these currency exchange rates automatically from any foreign currency exchange provider or bank that we have connected up with the connector software, and allow these rates to update automatically either through scheduled data exports from the connector or by manually selecting the data export and clicking the start imports. So if I reset all these values back to 1, then using the connector software, if I open that up, I've already configured an adapter within the connector software, and the connector software also has a preset where we can get the currency exchange rates based off the European bank through this service called exchangeratesAPI.io, which is a free currency exchange rates provider that is available on the internet. So we've connected that up in our generic adapter, and now what we can do is if we go into the export routines, and we could also do this from the administration center, we can choose to export the currency exchange rates from that provider and import them into the TOTECS platform. So we click that button. We can see here that that currency exchange rate data import is successfully run from the connector. And if we go back into the currency countries and refresh that page, we can see now all the exchange rates are now updated based on the latest currency exchange rates coming from the European banks. So we can see that we've got the most accurate numbers. So using the connector software, we can automatically have these rates update on a periodic basis. Generally once a day is fine. And what that means for the user is that when they see the prices of these products, they will see the prices based on the rates compared in this case, the euro price when that's converted from Australian dollars to euros to buy this box. Now, it's important to note these prices are just approximations, since it is only at the time when the order is actually made and when a payment has been converted from one currency to the Australian currency, either by the banks when a credit card payment is made, or at the time when the money is transferred between bank accounts, when the actual currency exchange rate will be actually implemented by the person purchasing them. So it is an indicative amount, not the actual amount. The reason why we're seeing euros and not any of these other currencies is if I go back into the users section of the administration center and we find the user, so in this case we have a guest user, that's a user that is not logged in. Against the user, you can choose which currency they would be seeing the prices in. So I didn't have to choose euros. We could instead use United States dollars, or we could use New Zealand dollars, or any of these other currencies that we've activated in the platform. For the multi-currency feature to work, it needs to be also turned on within the store settings, and that can only be done by TOTECS service personnel. And once that has been turned on and the currency has been set, then you can also then allow users then to see the currency that has been assigned to them. And also note that users also have the ability to switch currencies if the website is implemented to give users that choice, or it can be based on if there's rules set up from where they originate, which depends on where the pricing they set. Within the 13.1 TOTECS release, we added a new capability to the Content Managed Website's URL routing rules to be able to route categories that belong to a parent category to a specific page on a Content Managed website. To take an example here, we can see we have all the top tier categories of a category tree displayed on this website. If I hover on this category and washroom parent category, it has 6 child categories assigned to that. Now, if I then go into one of these pages, we can now see all the products that belong to this child category. Now, what we do see in the URL is the code of that category that was clicked on, but that's not telling us the web page that is actually being drawn to display the contents of this category. So at the moment, all these child categories are being pointed to the same web page, but we may want it that for a certain group of categories that belong to the same parent category, we want to take the user to a different page and display that page in a different format. So the clearance stock category may take us to a listing format that is completely different from the category and washroom format. Now, previously, we'd have to set up rules that tell each of these categories which page they need to go to. So we'd have to set up 6 different URL routing rules that will determine which web page draws these category products. Instead, if we go into the Administration Center, click on the Websites menu and click on the Websites menu item, within the web page URL routing, in the dialog, there's a new type of rule that's been added called Category and Children. And so we can now put in the code of the category that we want to redirect users to a specific web page. So if we find the category we want to set this up for, let's go into the category trees section. We can find our canteen and washroom. And if we look at that, it has the code of canteen and washroom. So if we copy that Back in the websites, we'll put a rule that says for any categories or children categories that belong to this canteen and washroom category, we want to take them instead of to the current page where they'll be taken to the category page, we want to take that user to the category 2 page. So if we add that rule with a single rule, we now have the ability for any child categories that belong to this canteen and washroom category, so that's any of these 6, will now take the user to a separate web page called category 2, which will be used to display that. So once we've added that rule, then if we test this out and we click on any of these child categories again, you can now see that the user has been taken to a different web page that is the category 2 web page that I set up, called this category page style 2, which has the way that the products are listed in a different format. So if we compare the two, let's go to a different category. So in this compact disc and data cart category, you can see that child products are listed in a tile view, whereas if we look at this category page style 2, you can see that the products are listed in a list style, where we only have a single product per row, whereas in the other page, we had multiple products per row. We go to any of these child categories, they always go to the page style 2, whereas any other category will go to a different style. So there's a number of reasons why you want to do this, because one class of products, you may want to style the page in a completely different way to another class of products that are under a different set of categories. Now this rule would also apply if there was a indirect relationship between one category and its parent. So if we take an example here, we have the office machines category, which then has all these child categories, and one of them, called laminating machines, is a child of that one of those child categories. So it's a third tier category. So if we put up a URL routing rule that says for these office machines that we want to take the user to a different web page, so we'll just add another rule there. So we're going to say that any children indirect of the office machines category, so that could be the laminating machines and pouches third tier category, will also be redirected to the same web page that the office machines category web page is assigned to. Previously, you would have to set up rules using the category rule that matched up a specific category to the page that it needed to belong to. With this new rule, category children covers all the child categories that belong under a given category that we can redirect users to. This, in effect, it allows us not to have to set up a rule for every single type of child category that we may want to redirect users to for a specific class of categories. Instead, we can put in one rule that allows all these child categories to be covered. And if a new child category gets added in the future, we don't have to add any more rules here. So this dramatically reduces the amount of effort required for administrators to manage a content managed website and their category data structures. Within the 13.1 TOTECS platform release, we added a small improvement to the product flags icons that display on content managed websites, so that if users hover over the image of the flag, you can now see the label of that flag image appear. And that is also useful for search engines to be able to denote the text that is associated to those images. And that may help ranking of these pages on the search engines in both the image searches or as well when users are trying to find content that is associated to those flags. So if we go into the administration center, you click on the inventory menu and click on the product flag types, we can see that for each product flag, we can set a name, and it's this name that will now appear within the alternative tags that appear within the content managed web page, giving that label that comes up. So this is a small improvement that may help both search engines for search engine optimization as well as accessibility of that website. Within the 13.1 TOTECS release, we added a new improvement to the platform so that when a user checks out and proceeds through checkout and submits an order, that the shopping cart totals will automatically refresh themselves on the same page when the user has successfully submitted an order. So if I go and add a product to basket, we'll just add this one, and then we proceed through the checkout process, we can see that we have 7 units or products in our basket worth $100. So if we continue on with the checkout process, in order details, we put in our information. We can still see that we've got 7 quantities in our basket. And then if we click on the submit button, on the same page where the order confirmation has happened, we can see that now the basket is showing that there are no products in the basket anymore. So previously this would show the existing products that were in the basket until the user navigated away from this page. Now it automatically cleans itself up, and making sure that users don't think that their order hasn't successfully gone through. This makes it very clear that now their basket is cleared, and now they can then proceed to buy more products if they wish and start a new basket. Within the 13.2 TOTECS release, we added a user search rule within the administration center to help administrators find users who have not ordered in a specific amount of days, months, or years. So if we go into the users menu, click on the search users menu option, under the advanced search, if we change the search category to order history, then we can find users who have not ordered in the last number of days, months, or years. So this search rule allows us to target and find users who haven't been ordering lately. So we could change this number to say the last 30 days. We want to find users who haven't ordered. And now we can see all those lists of users, and now we can then make decisions on what we want to do with those users. There's a number of options that we could do with this same search rule, and a few of them would be to send out some e-marketing to this user base to try to get them onto our website so that the way they can find products and raise new orders, or we could create some product deals and send them out to those same users as well in order to reduce the prices of products to compel them to create more sales for our organization. So this same search rule can be used for marketing purposes if we create up a marketing user group. So if we go to the marketing menu and click on marketing user groups, we could create a new group called users who haven't ordered lately. So we create a new group. With that new user group, we can put a search rule that once again isolates those users, and we'll set the same rule. So we have the user group that says for the last 30 days. Now with that user group, we can now tie that to a product deals and vouchers. So we might go and set up a new deal that they may get a reduced price. So maybe they get a 50% discount on a certain amount of products. We'll call this deal label that also for the users who haven't ordered lately. We'll set up the start date. So let's just make it this start date go for a month and is active. And what they're going to do is they're going to get a 50% discount on all the prices on all the products that we want to allow them to get a discount for. So we say that deal. And then when we set the users, we select our user group. So the users who haven't ordered lately, save and recalculate the users. Now we have all those users who have not ordered lately. They can now get this deal, and then we'll set the products against the deal. So let's just say we could use a product search rule. So all products with a flag. So if we look at our flags, we've got an on special flag. So that has the ID of 1. So now we've got all the products that are flagged as on special. These users who haven't ordered in the last 30 days are now going to be able to get a deal where they get the price of these products for 50% off. Now then we can either tie this deal to e-marketing, where we can send out an email to all these applicable users. So if we go into the e-media messaging, we could then target the users that want to receive an email. So we'll set our user base. So we'll target those users and everyone who's assigned to a marketing category that we're going to call it up, say MWD1 test, but we could then call that something else. And we could call it our VIP deals category. So any users who want to subscribe themselves to the VIP deals, product deals category, they can now then get this e-marketing email. And so then we could modify a web page, and we could set up a deals within here to then allow these products to be seen. And then we can submit that out to all these users to be able to know that there's a new product deal offering 50% off all these on special products. So this is the way that we can provide and incentivize users who have not ordered lately. So this highlights this new user search rule that we can then target to compel them to order more. And there's another rule where we can now get them within a date range. So we could try to target users who have not ordered, say, between 2019, the 1st of April, and then the 14th of April. So we can also have these set up a search rule like this to be able to find these users who haven't ordered in a certain range, and that may be the range where you've set up a deal, but they still have not raised any orders, and you may want to notify those users that the deal is still available. So that's another rule that we have available, along many other different rules on how we can target users to get them ordering on our website. Within the 13.2 TOTECS release, we've added a new improvement to the platform to be able to control how pricing and quantities are rounded using the account inquiry feature that retrieves different records such as invoices, transactions, credits, payments, back orders, and sales orders from connected accounting and ERP systems in real time. So in our example here, we're looking at an invoice, and we can see that the pricing currently is rounded to 2 decimal places, and the quantity is also rounding its values to 2 decimal places. So we may want to change that depending on how we round our pricing and our corresponding business system. Maybe we don't allow for decimal quantities, so now we can change how these numbers are displayed. So if I go into the administration center, click on the stores menu and click on the accounting menu item. Under the accounting store settings, there's 2 new settings that have been added called account inquiry record price decimal places and account inquiry record quantity decimal places. So this setting controls how many decimal places pricing should be rounded to and how many decimal places quantities should be rounded to. So we could change this to 0 if we didn't want any decimal places to show for our quantities, and we could change this, say, to 4 if we wanted to show pricing up to 4 decimal quantities. So we have an options between 0 to 4 decimal places that we want to display for our pricing. So once we've saved those settings, now if we go back to our invoice and refresh the page, we can now see the prices is now showing pricing up to 4 decimal places, and we now see that the quantity columns are now showing no decimal places for those values. And it's also the same with the totals of the invoice as well. So this change will affect invoice, credit payments, back orders, and sales orders, as well as transactions. And it's not just in the Content Managed website. This change will also affect the account inquiry feature in the Administration Center and within the trade interface as well. So if I was in the Administration Center and I click on either the search users or customer accounts, once I found a user and clicked on the account code, that will take me to the account inquiry feature. And from there, we can see that any invoice is loaded. We can see that its pricing also is showing up to 4 decimal places. And in other tabs, we can see that all the pricing there is also into 4 decimal places as well. So these 2 new settings allow us to match the websites hosted on the TOTECS platform, to match how our connected accounting or business system where those records are retrieved from, to display the pricing in the same format as those systems do as well. Within the 13.2 TOTECS release, when new users register to a website hosted on the platform, within the registration profiles, there are new settings to control the price tax format, 2-factor authentication, and whether users should be able to see notifications when they comment on news blogs. So if we go into the Administration Center, under the Users menu, within the User Registration Profiles, if we click on a profile, so we've got 2 profiles here, one's called Retail, one's called Commercial, and there can be any number of registration profiles set up within a TOTECS project. A few new settings being added under the Profile Details section. There's a settings called Price Tax Format, 2-factor authentication, and whether or not the user is allowed to receive news blog notifications that they have either raised or commented on. So when a new user registers, there's a choice now to whether or not they should see pricing inclusive of or excluding tax once they've logged in. This setting particularly is important when we have multiple registration profiles, and one of those profiles might be set up for business users or as opposed to retail users. So typically retail users would have this setting set to inclusive because they want to see the full final price of a product, whereas business users would be set to exclusive because they don't care to see the tax pricing that they're paying those products for. Now, additionally to that, to do with the new feature that we added into the platform for the 2-factor authentication that we talked about earlier in this release video, there's now the choice here to turn 2-factor authentication on by default when new users register, or leave it off for those users. If it's turned on and the mobile field is set to mandatory, then once that user has registered, then for them to log on to this website, they will receive 2-factor authentication code once they have correctly entered their username and login credentials. If that's set to off, then the user will only need to set their username and password credentials in order to log in to the website that they need to. So this is important if your project is using 2-factor authentication for users to log in, to set this setting to on, as well as set the mobile field to mandatory for 2-factor authentication to be required for that user. The last setting is to receive news blogs and notifications. So if this is set to yes, then when a user registers and they create a new news blog item in a Content Managed website, or they comment on somebody else's news blog item, then they will receive an email notification telling them that a comment has been made. If it's set to only for own created news blog items, then they'll only receive notifications for comments that people have made against their own news blogs items, as opposed to also notifications about news blog items that they have commented on themselves and are participating within. If it's set to no, then they will receive no email notifications for this feature. So these 3 features enable to set the settings that would otherwise be controlled if we went into the search users or into all users. And then these same settings are available against the user, where we can control the tax format, the receive new blogs items notifications, as well as the 2-factor authentication settings that are available there. So back within our example, for our retail registration profile, we've set the text format to be inclusive. But if we went to our commercial registration profile, we would typically set that to exclusive, since we're using that separate form for users to sign up. And within our Content Managed website, we can see these different registration profiles that allow different users to register against the website with. So once the user has filled out the user registration form, then those settings will be set corresponding to the profile that has been set up for them. And so these settings avoid the need for an administrator user to have to set up these settings after the user has registered. So this will reduce the workload of administrator users, saving time and money for a business. Within the TOTECS 11.1 release, we added a new improvement into the platform to be able to calculate how tax is applied against orders in multiple ways, either at the line level, where taxes are then rounded and added together, or at the order total level, where the total tax is applied against the subtotal of an order, as opposed to at the line level. So if you look at the ways that tax can be applied against the order, with the example I have in the spreadsheet here, we are ordering 2 products, so we're cardboard boxes and plastic bottles, and we can see the unit prices for those and the quantities that we're ordering for each. Now, if we add them together, we get the total price for each of the lines, excluding tax, which is displayed here. Now, there's 2 options that we can do here. We can either then add on the tax to these subtotals for the line by getting the tax rate. In this case, this would be a GST tax rate. So then we apply that tax rate across the total price of the line, excluding tax, to get our final price, which is then rounded to 2 decimal places there. So normally, if they're not rounded, then we're going to go into 3 decimal places because we're adding a fraction to the unit prices. So if we do that, then to get the final total of the order, we just simply need to add up all the line total prices, including the rounded tax, to give us the final total of the order. So in this case, it's $10.40. However, there is a different way to calculate this, where we add up all the total prices for each of the lines that are not including tax, add them together to get our final subtotal, then we calculate the tax that would be applied against that subtotal. So we add on the 10% to get the GST, which would be here. As you can see, that it goes into 3 decimal places, and then we round that number to 2 decimal places, and we add that to our subtotal to get the final total. So in this case, we're calculating tax at an order total level as opposed to a line level. And we can see here that the final order total can be off by 1 or more cents depending on where the rounding is occurring. So the new setting that we added to the TOTECS platform, if we go into the stores menu and go into the order settings interface, if we scroll down, there's a new setting that has been added called basket order total tax rounding method. And you can either set it at the product line total or the order basket total. So if it's set at the order line total, then we want to do the rounding here at the order line level. Or if it's at the order basket total, then we want to do the rounding based on taxes being applied on top of the overall subtotal of the order. This setting should match up with how pricing is rounded within the associated accounting or ERP business system that the orders are going into, since those systems will try to calculate the orders the same way when the orders import. And once you've made that change, hit the save button, then from now on, TOTECS, for any new orders, they will be calculating the tax and the rounding of tax based on these settings as those orders are submitted. And also note that if you wish to control how the prices are displayed and rounded on the unit price level, we can also go into the inventory menu, go into the product settings, and then we have the settings there to control how those unit prices and pricing is displayed in general is controlled by this setting here as well. Now, it's important to note that if you do round at the order total level, then TOTECS cannot show the precise amount that a tax is applied to each line because it's not possible, because the final order total tax is applied at the order total level. So if you decide to turn this setting on to apply it at the order total level, then you should avoid showing the tax amount applied against the line, or note that the users will only see an approximation. Whereas if we round at the line level, we can be ensured that the price that the user sees for the tax will be accurate, since those prices will be summed up to get the final tax amount applied against the order. In the 13.1 TOTECS release, we added a new improvement into the platform to allow products that are assigned to combination products to appear in the contract product listing areas when those products would otherwise not be able to be seen. So on our example website here, this is called a combination product, and it means combinations where the users have to choose from a combination of options to be able to choose the final product that will be ultimately added to basket. So the original product, the Slimline Executive Chair, is a representation of a number of products. And if we go into the Administration Center and we find that product, within the product editor, we can see then all the child products, we call them, that are assigned to this parent combination product. Now, within the Administration Center, if we went into the product search settings under the stores menu, there is a setting here to not allow child combination products to be shown in product search results listing. If that setting had been turned on, then that means when we viewed a list of products in a category listing or product search results listing area, we would not get duplicates. Those child products would not appear because there is a parent combination product that represents all of them. And this, in effect, reduces the amount of products that the user can see because they only care about the overall parent combination product that is being represented. However, if we went into the My Item section and then we went into contracts and we viewed a contract, if one of those child one or more of those child products of a combination was assigned to a contract. Previously, those child products would not appear when that search setting was turned on. So now this products listing area will always show child products regardless of whether or not the search setting advises not to show in any product listing areas such as we have here. So this makes sure that products don't go missing that otherwise should be shown. Within the 13.1 TOTECS release, we added an improvement to allow email notifications to be sent when a user unsubscribes from e-marketing. So within the Administration Center, if we go into the Marketing menu and go into the e-media messaging, this is where we can see all the emails that we're sending out to our users within our TOTECS project. Once we look at a message, you can see that for any email that we have, there must be an unsubscribe link that allows the user to opt out receiving any future marketing. The new improvement is if the user decides to click on that link and unsubscribe from receiving any more e-marketing, there is now a setting under the Marketing menu in the Marketing settings, a setting called Send Administration Email Notification when users unsubscribe from marketing is now available, where that can be set to yes. And if it's set to yes, then an administrator user can know when a user has clicked on the unsubscribe link. So within here, you put the email address of the person who wants to receive these notifications when users are unsubscribing from receiving e-marketing material, and then you can also customize how the subject of that message would be. You could put it in unsubscribe user in the subject, or however you want to customize that. And then you can also set up the format of how that email needs to look. And so we could set some example markup that will be put into these unsubscribed emails sent to administrators. And taking a very simple example, that could look something like this, where it advises that the user, just say John Doe, from that email address is unsubscribed from receiving any future VIP deals. So we've got a couple of hooks here that are available. So we've got the unsubscribed from hook that says which marketing category did the user unsubscribe from. So they may have unsubscribed from all of them, or they may have subscribed from a specific marketing category. So in our example here, we're saying there was a marketing category called VIP deals that they unsubscribed from. We can get the details of the user's first and last names if we want to display them, as well as the other details such as login ID, account ID, and the email address that they were using as well. So this is a very simple example. You can tailor this format to the style matching the branding of your website hosted on the TOTECS platform. So that way administrators can read this and know exactly who unsubscribed and where they unsubscribed from. And then from there, administrators can make decisions if the content of that e-marketing was not hitting the mark, or they could contact that person to understand the reasons why they unsubscribed from their e-marketing emails as well. So once we click the set button, click the save button to save all those settings. Now, when users click on the unsubscribe link, an email can be now sent to the nominated administrator user to receive notifications of the user who clicked on that link. And that's a wrap up of the 13.1 and 13.2 TOTECS releases. For more information about these releases, go to the TOTECS.com website, click on the help menu, go to the forums, from there go to the release forum. From there you can read the release notes on the 13.2 and 13.1 releases. Additionally, go to the YouTube channel, subscribe to receive notifications when future videos come out. Thanks for taking the time to listen. Until next time, have a great day.